Hey guys, what is going on? This is Cardinal Bird 5, and today I'm going to bring you guys a tip video, and we're going to talk about catcher defense. Is it important? Is it worth having that 99 Molina on your team? Should you play your cap at catcher, or should you just play Posada or put Victor Martinez and not even worry about defense or anything? Hopefully, this video will give you some ideas. I'm not a big fan of just giving you a clear-cut answer and saying yes, it's super important or no, but I kind of want to give you my opinion, and we're gonna test a lot of stuff with this. And I'm doing like a collab with Beanie Antics. If you guys don't know him, it's USM Baseball. I'm gonna say this a few times, but make sure you guys go sub to his channel. Really cool guy, really funny channel, but he's also like a really good player, so he gives you really good tips on there, and he just started, so I'm sure he would really much appreciate all your guys' support. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to some of our testing now. In the background, I'm just showing you guys a lot of wild pitches and the catcher's blocking them. So basically we tested two things. We tested blocking and we tested arm strength. But let's go ahead and talk about all the attributes really quick for catchers. You also have arm accuracy. Let me talk about arm accuracy. If you have the throw meter on, you'll have the opportunity to use the catcher throw meter when throwing out runners. So what arm accuracy does, the more arm accuracy you have a larger green zone, so a better chance that you'll make an accurate throw. The less arm accuracy you have, the less green you'll have. But to be honest, it's really pretty easy to get your meter to stop in the green, even with somebody like Posada. Like I can probably get it 100 out of 100 times. It's real easy. You guys can also practice that, but that's what arm accuracy does. Secondly, does reaction and fielding mean anything for catchers? From this test, I can't conclude much from it. Like fielding, I don't really think it means much. If you guys don't know, fielding also modifies the speed for the player in the field. So for outfield and third base, like it can mean a lot. Like if you have somebody that has good fielding, but only like 60 speed. Let's say like Jim Edmonds, from last year, they haven't put a good one yet in the game, but he had like I think 64 speed, but he had like almost maxed out fielding. He's gonna be quicker in the field, even compared to somebody that has like 90 plus speed but like 60 fielding. So in that sense, fielding means a lot in the field, like for outfield and infield. Obviously, it's also like the rate at which you field the ball successfully. For catchers, I don't really think it means much. It might attribute to some of those random pitches where they just drop or something, but most of the time your catcher doesn't have a whole lot of chances or opportunities to field a ball in play. So reaction, fielding, and arm accuracy, I don't think it means a whole lot. Arm accuracy, yes, it does do something. So that's just my personal opinion. When you want to look at catcher, you want to focus on two attributes, arm strength and blocking, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So Beanie Antics and I did a lot of testing for both, and we're going to start with blocking. So here's the results. So what we did was we did 50 pitches in the dirt. You can see we did this over and over and over. We used Molina. We used both of our caps. We used Jorge Posada. We even used a guy with zero blocking, Afaro, but I think that might be a bug in the game, and we'll talk about that later on. He also put Victor Martinez back there, who, we can't really see his blocking, but if you look at his live series and you give that 5%, secondary position, we're going to assess it's about, in the low 60s, say 64. So here are the results out of 50 pitches in the dirt. Now we tried to mix it up. There's also a lot of other factors that go into the testing. So there's also user error. There's the degree of difficulty for certain wild pitches, like where the catcher actually has to move side to side. There's easy ones that are just straight down. There's also pitch confidence, how you manipulate your pitching interface, like if you're very, very late compared to you're on time, but you're also aiming for the dirt. I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. So we tried to be pretty fair in all of those. But for the testing, out of 50 pitches in the dirt, here are the results. Molina only had 4 mistakes out of 50. And I also want to mention that we counted half off if it was like they stopped it, but it got away a little bit. Kind of like that one that just happened right there. Actually, no, we'll probably call that a pass ball. But if it's, kind of in the vicinity of the catcher, but there's still an opportunity for the runner to advance, we kind of count those half. If they go all the way, like almost to the backstop, a decent amount away, we count it as a full point. And so Molina had 4 mistakes out of 50, which is pretty good, I would say. Like he was blocking a lot of balls pretty well. And then Posada. By the way, Molina has 90 blocking. Posada, who has 70 blocking, had 17 mistakes out of 50. He had a lot of ones that were kind of, in between, so we gave him half points, but he missed a lot. He was terrible. And that's the impact veteran Posada. And then we also have a Faro who has 0 blocking, and this is really, really funny. He has 0 blocking, but he actually did the second best. So that will kind of tell you that's why you should be really, really cautious of how much value you put in catcher defense. But we're kind of thinking that it was a bug, and it's actually just not showing up properly. But he only messed up on 5 out of 50 pitches in the dirt. Then Victor Martinez, the Impact veteran Victor Martinez that you get in the ticket counter. He had 12 out of 50. He actually did okay. It's not great. He has 64 blocking, or at least we're assessing. That's even worse than Posada, who has 70 blocking, but he did better than Posada, so that was kind of interesting. Now, our caps. Beanie's cap was terrible. He had 16 mistakes out of 50, and then my cap did really well. He had 7 out of 50. Now, Beanie's blocking attribute for his cap was a little bit worse, but it was only 2 points. He has 85 blocking on his cap, and I had 87 blocking after you include our equipment bonuses. So basically, we got a lot of different results besides Molina. Molina, by far, was the best, but I don't know how much we can actually draw from that, and we'll kind of save our conclusions. I'm going to actually bring Beanie onto the video, and we're going to talk about our conclusions at the end. So those were the block balls. Now, as far as arm strength, I tested this a lot of different ways. First of all, we did regular delivery, we did slide steps, and we did pitch outs. All right, it seemed like it was pretty consistent. So for the sake of this video, I'm just going to talk about regular delivery. It seemed like their arm strength did not change at all, whether it was a pitch out or not. Obviously, like a pitch out and slide step, you're just going to get the ball out of the pitcher's hands quicker, so you're going to have a better chance to throw out the runner. But for the sake of the video, we're only going to use just a regular delivery, just a regular windup of somebody, on first base. Now, here are the results from the release point. This was the time right before they released the ball until the ball made impact with the second baseman or shortstop's glove. All right. So here were the times. I'll start with the best. The best was Molina in the 2 caps. Makes sense, right? That's pretty consistent. Now, I will say my cap had 97 arm strength. Beanie's was a little higher at 99. We also tested these 3 to 4 times each and then kind of averaged them out. So we didn't just do it once. And keep in mind, there's still going to be user error, and there's going to be a lack of sample size. Theoretically, if we want to, really get a good feel for how good defensively these guys are, especially for blocking, we could have had a lot larger sample size. But for the release points, Molina in the caps were the best. They were at 1.18 seconds. Now that's time they release the ball, get it all the way down to second base, in the second baseman's mitt. And then not far behind was a Faro, who I think had 78. Yeah, he had 78 arm strength. It took him 1.23 seconds on average to get the ball down to second base from his release point. That's pretty good. That's only 0.05 difference between the caps. So in my opinion, that's like 99 down to 78. That's 20 points in difference. That's not a huge deal. I know 0.05 can be the difference between caught stealing or a stolen base, but for the sake of this video, and then also you have to account for there's possibility of user error. I don't think it's a whole lot. I don't think it's a big difference. I think you can get away with playing somebody that's a little bit better offensively and might only have 80 something arm strength. And then Posada, he was in last. We didn't do Victor Martinez for this one, but Posada was the slowest. He had 70 arm strength, and it took him 1.25 seconds. Again, so from 70 arm strength to 99, it was 0.07. Not like a huge deal in my opinion, but I'll let you guys draw your own conclusion from that. I still personally would rather have a little bit more offense for my catcher position. Now we're going to talk about pop time. If you guys don't know what pop time is, it's basically right when the catcher catches the ball, he pops up and then throws the runner, or he throws the ball down to second base. So the average pop time, at least the projected pop time for the 2017 season, and I will say the average was around about 2 seconds. The number 15 team projected pop time was actually for Milwaukee, and they were projected to get 2.0 seconds on average for the year. The top projected pop time for catchers actually belonged to the Padres. I guess Austin Hedges. Don't know much about him, but apparently he's really good and has a really quick pop time. He is projected to have a 1.89, so that's the best. And then the worst was Atlanta. and I believe that was Flowers, and his was 2.07. So there is a 0.18 difference between the best and the worst. That doesn't sound like a whole lot, but I'm just telling you guys that's from best to worst. That's from like 99 overall, or whatever they want to do, 90 overall to like maybe 60. So those were the ranges in comparison to real MLB. Now here's the pop times we got from our testing. All right, so the best pop time we got was Molina and Beanie's cap. They were both averaging about 1.81 seconds. That was actually better than the Padres' projected pop, Austin Hedges. Secondly, my cap came in second, which kind of makes sense because he only has 97 arm strength, and he clocked in at a 1.85 seconds for his pop time. And then not far behind him was actually Posada, so I don't know if this was an anomaly or we can account this to user error, but I had him around 1.85 as well. And then coming in last, we had Alfaro, the guy with 0 blocking, but he did have 78 arm strength. He had a 1.92 pop time. Now we looked at reaction and everything, maybe attributed to reaction. We didn't really find anything with reaction. Like even though Beanie's cap had more reaction than Molina, they were still getting rid of the ball the same. They're still popping up and throwing it the same. So we don't really think reaction or fielding has anything to do with it. For the most part, though, this is consistent, and we have a 0.11 difference between the best and worst time. And then in the majors, it was 0.17. So I don't know. There is some slight differences there. And, again, we measured it at least 3 times a piece and took the average. So I think that data is, for the most part, pretty accurate. However, there may still be some user error. So that's the data, guys. Now I want to start talking with Beanie and go over our conclusions, and then I'll let you guys draw your own conclusion from the data we had. Alright guys, so I'm here with Beanie Antics, and at the conclusion of this test, we're going to talk a little bit about the test we did and give our opinions. But before we do so, I want to make sure you guys check out Beanie Antics' channel, his YouTube channel. Just Beanie Antics, right?
Yes, just Beanie Antics.
And if you guys like a lot of the content that I do, you'll like his channel a lot. He kind of is a little bit, more funnier than me, does a little bit more comedic type of stuff. But at the same time, he's also a really good player, and he gives pretty good tips on his channel as well. So I'll put his stuff in the description. So make sure you guys go over to his channel and give him a subscription. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to the conclusion. So first, I want to ask, before we started this test, and I'll let you answer first, did you think that catcher defense meant anything? And we'll just talk about blocking, or we could talk about blocking and arm strength. Just go ahead. And what did you think about before we tested?
Well, catcher defense was something that blocking was weird because I didn't know whether blocking meant anything or not. I kind of had my inclinations that it meant little to nothing, but when it came to the other stuff with catcher, I always just wanted a hitter. That was the big thing with me, is I just always wanted a good hitter, and then if they had good defense along with it, I was okay with that. But I was kind of in the dark on what it meant to have good defense. But the blocking and the arm strength, you paid a lot more attention to that than I did. But I always thought that it meant something. Everybody is just drooling over this Yadier Molina card, and I kind of was too at first because I was like, oh man, nobody's going to be running on this guy. And I guess there is kind of like a mental thing, that people that don't know what arm strength is and does and everything, they might not run as often on him. I never think about that, but the arm strength side of it, I always kind of thought it meant something and that blocking didn't.
Okay, that's interesting. I was kind of skeptical really going into this. I really didn't value catcher defense that much. I know that a few years ago it didn't really mean anything at all. The only time it really meant anything was balls in play, which we weren't really able to test, but I can still assure you guys that it does have an impact of balls in play, obviously, because you can tell the difference between Cal Ripken and then Corey Seager or somebody at shortstop. You can tell the difference between arm strength and balls in play, and I think the same applies to catchers. But for defense, I never really valued it at all. Blocking, I really was unsure about that, but arm strength, I was pretty sure that it didn't mean a whole lot. But again, I was also unsure because I know they kind of redid the physics and all that. And they also implemented a catcher meter. So I was curious to see, what this test would bring us.
Yeah, kind of thinking about it, whenever I would approach, just kind of subconsciously, whenever I would approach a catcher and like be looking at him and everything, I was kind of like you. I discounted everything on defense because I thought it meant nothing except arm strength. I always kind of had it in the back of my head that it'd be really nice to have a guy with some semblance of an arm.
Yeah, so we have the data. We did the testing. First, I want to point out is that, you can always get more of a sample size. We did 50 wild pitches or balls in the dirt for the blocking. We actually timed the arm strength, and we did it at least 3 times, and then we would average it out. So there's going to be user error, and there's going to be sample size that could affect the results of our testing. So I just want to, and starting with blocking, I'll just speak personally that it did seem that Molina did a lot better job of blocking compared to everybody else. But then after that, we got kind of mixed results. For instance, like my cap did a lot better than yours. My cap out of 50 only had 7, mistakes or pass balls or whatever you want to call it. But Molina, he only had 4 out of 50, and some of those we counted like as a half point if they were just in the area. But there's like a 50-50 chance they could possibly advance the runner. But if it like went in between their legs into the backstop, I mean that's always a full point there. But as far as like Victor Martinez, who we're assuming has like in the 60s for blocking, compared to like Posada, there was even a difference there, and I don't know if that's just attributed to sample size or not. For instance, we had Victor at 12 pass balls out of 50, and then Posada we had 17 out of 50. Some of that could be attributed to sample size alone, but I can safely say that Molina did a lot better job blocking than everyone else, even the caps that had similar blocking. They were only a few points lower. So what did you think?
Well, if I took Molina out of it and I looked at every single because we also did Jorge Alfaro, who had 0 blocking, but we kind of think that was a bug in the game or whatever. But if I looked at everybody else's blocking, I would walk away with the conclusion that blocking means absolutely nothing. Yeah. Then when you look at Molina and how good he did, as opposed to everybody else, then you have to think like it really throws a wrench into everything because, I mean, Molina really did do significantly better. Posada was awful. Posada was by far the worst.
Posada missed a lot of easy ones, and I know a lot of stuff went into it, like the type of pitch, their pitch confidence, stamina and fatigue. We tried to be fair. We tried to give him, like 50-50 difficult, like really difficult ones, and then like 50, the other half pretty easy ones straight down the middle. So we know there's a lot of other variables going into it, and that's why, we probably could have done more of a sample size, but I think based off that, Molina was the best. So like, I wonder if there's like you were saying there's a possibility of a threshold or something.
Yeah, like I started to think about it, and kind of with power, how there's like a threshold to where if you hit a certain number when it comes to power, it's a lot easier to hit home runs, and if you're like a couple points below that, it gets a lot more difficult. And I kind of think the same thing with blocking. Like I think if you have like 88 to 90 plus blocking, I think it makes a big difference. But if you have below that, it's like the Wild Wild West. It's a crapshoot. Like it really feels like it has very, very little meaning.
Yeah, like Posada had 70, and then Victor, is in the 60s if we're going off his live series, and then Victor actually did a little bit better. So I'm kind of with you. Like Massimo Molina did better by far, and I don't really think that was a fluke. But the other guys were just random. Even the guy with 0 blocking, which we kind of think's a glitch, so we didn't really want to like include that. So
right,
I guess conclusion.
But the one thing I will say about that is that if you do think that there is that threshold and that kind of 98, like high 80s to low 90s is it, the only 2 guys that really meet that is Matt Wieters and Yadier Molina. Like everybody else is below that threshold.
Yeah, and nobody's going to use Matt Wieters in Diamond Dynasty for that.
Right.
Not that I would know of. So yeah, I guess in conclusion, if you don't have Molina, you don't know what to expect. And again, I don't know, our results may differ from your guys' experiences, but that was just based off our test. Now I kind of want to talk a little bit about arm strength. We did a lot of tests. We did, just regular delivery. We did off slide step. We did off pitch outs. We also did like from the release point. We also did the complete pop time. We also did the whole delivery for some, which I'm going to kind of leave out because we used a few different pitchers. Basically, our results was 1.25, or excuse me, the best release point time for just like regular delivery. We're just going off that was 1.18 for Molina, and that was roughly about the same as our caps. Now, your cap had 99 arm strength, mine had 97, so that's consistent. That makes sense. For Posada and Alfaro, they weren't too far off. Alfaro was 1.23 and Posada was 1.25. So that is kind of consistent and does make sense. So, having said that, do you think arm strength matters?
Yes, I do. I've come away convinced that it does matter. I think a lot of it could be contributed to user error. However, I don't think it matters to the extent that people would like to believe it does, because you could go and you could read off the pop times that we recorded too. I believe that my creative player was like a 1.81, which was the best, and then Posada was, or no,
Yeah,
who was it?
Molina and your cap were the best, and that made sense because they had the best arm strength. And then
Yes,
my
and
cap
then
was
Alfaro was the worst with like a 1.92 or something like that.
Right.
And it all stayed pretty consistent with their attributes. There was I know Posada kind of had one, like he was better than Alfaro, which was weird because Alfaro has a stronger arm.
That
or
could
whatever.
be attributed to user error, so we can kind of discredit that. So I'm kind of on the same page with you. 1.81. We're referring to pop times here. 1.81 for Molina in your cap. Those were the two best, and then 1.92 Afara was the worst, and he has, I think, 70 something arm strength. So yeah, I mean, a 0.11 difference, and that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but as far as throwing out runners, it can be a huge difference. So I would say that was pretty consistent.
It was.
So yeah, we can agree there. I guess to wrap up this video though, do you think it's more valuable to have your cap at catcher over Molina, or do you think it's more valuable having Molina there?
Well, it's a little bit trickier. Like before we did this, I would have said cap, no doubt about it. Like it's not even close. The fact that Molina was so consistent blocking everything behind the plate makes me kind of rethink that a little bit, because your cap was pretty good. My cap was awful. So that kind of throws a wrench into it. Maybe if I upgraded my cap like 1 point in blocking, because yours was a little bit better. Maybe yours hit that threshold, mine didn't.
2 points higher. So yeah, I don't personally know if there's like a certain threshold. Maybe there is. Maybe,
yeah,
like I said, sample size. We could have done, like, if you really want a good depiction of how good these guys are playing to their attributes, we would have done like 1,000 times. We just didn't have time to do that, obviously.
I still think I would rather have my cap there than Yadier, just because I don't think that Yadier makes up on offense what he gives you on defense. Like I think you can get enough defense out of your cap at catcher to be valuable and to be pretty much just as good as Yachty, and he's a switch hitter who's gonna hit amazing for you. So. Yeah. I'd take the cap all day.
Yeah, pretty much for Molina, you might get, he might block some wild pitches more often, but I really don't think that makes up for not only offensive value, like pure offensive value, but, well, I guess base running is another key factor to me. Like, I can't stand the Posada. The Molina has like 30-something speed, which, it doesn't mean anything on defense, obviously, but like as far as getting them on base, I think it makes a huge difference. So I personally like the cap. I think it's more valuable than Molina. Like, just from a pure offensive standpoint, I think your offensive numbers are going to outweigh some of your defensive withdrawals there. For catchers, after doing this test, I see that there are some small discrepancies between some of these players defensively, but I still don't think it means a whole lot, and I still don't think it's going to cost you like a lot of runs in the long run. That's just my personal opinion. I think there's a lot of intangibles that go into catchers in real life, such as framing, calling a game, a lot of other stuff too. I personally still do not value catcher defense a whole lot, even though, we did show some discrepancies there in our testing.
I'm in 100% agreement with you. I think it matters a little. But before we were kind of like, it doesn't matter at all. I've been swayed a little bit. It matters a little bit, just a little, but not enough to make up for the offensive deficiency.
Right. Okay. So yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap up the video here. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember to go ahead and sub to Beanie Antics. Remember that will be in the description of the video. Give him a sub. Real good YouTuber. I know he just started, so you know it would mean a lot if you guys go sub to him. And is there anything else you want to say, Beanie, before we end the video?
Oh no, just that I really appreciate being a part of it, dude. It was awesome. Thank you.
No problem. All right, guys. So I'll see you guys next time. And this is Carnivore 5 signing out. Peace.